Do you want to find out which of the diseases spread like wildfire amongst humans? Do you want to know which disease is actually considered an economic factor in the development of an entire continent? Then you better keep on watching, because we have the top 10 deadliest infectious diseases. So let's dive right into it, people. Number 10. Sleeping sickness. With a mortality rate of 42.50%, the Latin name for this disease is the African Trypanosomiasis, and it's caused by the bite of the tsetse fly. Now, don't get us wrong, the bite of the fly is not dangerous, but the parasite it carries with it are, and as such, there are two types of species that cause the disease. The Trypanosoma brucei and gambiense, or TBG for short, and Trypanosoma brucei rhodesiense, or TBR, and the former causes 98% of the cases. So what does this disease actually do? Well, first of all, there are two stages of the disease. The first one occurs around 1 week after the bite. During this stage, the patient experiences fever, headaches, and itchiness. The second stage begins weeks and sometimes even months later. The characteristics? How about confusion, poor coordination, numbness, and trouble sleeping? The disease infects the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, where about 70 million people from 36 countries are smashing that like button if you haven't done so already. But no, in reality, those 70 million people are at risk of getting the disease. Nowadays, there are 11,000 new cases. In 2015 alone, this disease has caused 3,500 deaths. And 25 years earlier, in 1990, there were around 34,000 infected. The death toll, as we said, is 42.5%. Number 9. Ebola. Mortality rate, 50%. Unlike the previous example, this virus is caused by different types of Ebola viruses, and they're spread when a human being gets into contact with bodily fluids of other humans or animals that have been infected. For example, when you eat meat that hasn't been properly cooked, the chances of getting the disease shoot up exponentially. The number of Ebola outbreaks in the world are 24, and all of them have been relatively small. The largest of them all was the West African Ebola epidemic, which had more than 28,000 cases and 11,300 deaths. Since this giant 2016 Ebola outbreak, people have been cautious about the disease, and the WHO has warned about the dangers of it. Why? How about the fact that the disease is accompanied by fevers, with a sore throat, headaches, then vomiting, diarrhea, and a nasty rash to follow suit? And if that wasn't enough, then you will start to see the function of your kidney and liver start to deteriorate. Oh, and we're not done yet. The final stage is internal bleeding, and in some cases, there's even external bleeding. Number 8. The Marburg Virus. Mortality rate, 50%. Now, this is a virus that has been listed as a risk group 4 pathogen by the World Health Organization, and in the US, it is considered a category priority pathogen. The symptoms of the virus don't differ too much from those of the Ebola virus, and humans can be infected through a species of fruit bat, or if contacted with the bodily fluids of an infected human. So basically sex, blood, and broken skin are main concerns. As for some of the symptoms, they include fevers, bleeding, as well as other Ebola symptoms. Now, for the severity of this disease, you should know that there is no cure for it. There is no treatment. There isn't a vaccine. It's only you versus the disease. And your chances of survival are basically 50-50. Unless you manage to catch the disease early on, and taking care of the symptoms such as dehydration will undoubtedly increase your chances of beating it. Number 7. The Hendra disease. The mortality rate, 57%. So far, only 7 people have been infected by the disease, and 60% of the people died as a result. And get this, this is another virus that is spread by bats, Man, these creatures are getting on our nerves. In this particular example, the species of bat responsible for the spread of this disease is the flying fox. When the bat has been infected with the virus, any feces or urine or saliva from the flying fox falls on the ground, and some horses later eat it. They most likely get infected. The first outbreak happened in 1994 when 13 horses got infected as well as their trainer. Currently, there is no way for the bats to infect humans, but any human being in close contact with horses is at risk of catching the disease. And yes, there is no known treatment for this disease either. Number 6. The bird flu. With a mortality rate of 60%, not too long ago, many news outlets began reporting on the deadly effects of the bird flu in humans. The first case had been discovered in 1997 in China, when a farmer was in contact with infected poultry. There are many forms of bird flu, but the one that infects humans is the H5N1. When humans come into contact with the feces, the saliva, or nose and eye secretions of chickens that have been infected with the virus, they will become infected themselves. Also, eating raw chicken meat and eggs has been known to infect humans. If the meat and eggs are cooked properly, then there's no risk of getting infected. The mortality rate has been known to stand around 60%, and its symptoms are cough, diarrhea, headaches, runny nose, sore throat, and respiratory difficulties. Number 5. Nipah Virus. Mortality rate 75%. It's official. We're thinking about starting a petition to kill all fruit bats. They're a major transmitter of deadly diseases, and in this case, it is one that has a 75% mortality rate. Now, for someone to get infected, they need to be in close contact with fruit bats or pigs. In addition, drinking raw date palm sap has been known to infect people as well. The first recorded infection came in 1998, and about 20 years later, there is no known cure for the disease. Around 700 people have been killed by the virus, and more than 500 of those are currently dead. So yeah, since Malaysia found out that pigs cause the disease, millions of them were murdered by the authorities to stop the spread of the disease. And it freaking worked. Now, if only we could do the same to fruit bats. Number 4. The brain-eating amoeba. Mortality rate 95%. They're exactly what they say. It's a parasite that attacks your brain and starts eating it. It's called Naegleria fowleri, and it can be found in warm waters like hot springs, geothermal well water, poorly chlorinated swimming pools, and much more. So, whenever you go for a swim, there is a very small chance that you might get infected with this amoeba. It enters your nose and goes straight to your brain. Although they usually feed on bacteria in the wild, when inside the human body, they prefer to eat neurons. In about 1 to 9 days, you will start seeing symptoms like headache, fever, and nausea. Then this is followed by a stiff neck, seizures, and hallucinations. Death only sets in about 2 weeks from the infection, but there have only been 37 people infected in the US from 2009 until 2018. Number 3. Balancia Encephalitis. Mortality rate 98%. This is yet another amoeba that attacks the human body and is extremely fatal. It's called Balancia mandrillaris, granulomatous amoebic encephalitis, and it was first discovered in the brain of a mandrill monkey. It too migrates to the brain where it causes the most of the problems. Some of the symptoms include focal paralysis, facial paralysis, seizures, double vision, and difficulty swallowing. If you're wondering which people can get infected, it's usually in the temperate region of the world. Number 2. Rabies. Mortality rate 100%. Back in the 30s, a scientist found one of the bats reacting strangely. Since then, the disease has been recognized, and they can be carried by bats, coyotes, foxes, raccoons, and skunks. While in some countries, dogs still transmit the disease. Once infected, the disease almost always results in death. Anyone who thinks that they've contracted the disease should instantly receive rabies vaccinations just in case. and the symptoms are numerous, with the most common including fever, headache, nausea, vomiting, and anxiety. Oh, and as a quick reminder, if you ever get bitten by an animal, you should immediately go to your doctor and have your wound tested. Number 1. Mad cow disease. Mortality rate 100%. And here is the absolute deadliest of all the diseases. Now, the mad cow disease doesn't really affect humans, only a variety of it does. The actual disease attacks the brain and spinal cord of cattle, destroying it in the process. As for humans, they can only get infected with VCJD when eating the spine or the brain of a cow. And at this point, you're basically asking for it. What are you doing eating the brain of a cow in the first place? That's just gross. Anyhow, the person cannot get infected by the disease if they ate beef or any other cow products. So unless you're really into a calf's brains, you have nothing to worry about. You should know that people that have the disease cannot infect other individuals through mere contact. And on that note, we end this video. But hey, do you think a virus is more dangerous if it has a higher mortality rate or spreads faster? You can tell us in the comment section below. And if you'd like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.